The country club dining room gleamed with old money and older traditions. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting warm light over tables dressed in cream linens and silver place settings. My parents' 40th anniversary celebration was exactly the kind of event they lived for. Elegant, expensive, and packed with everyone who mattered in their social circle. I sat at the family table in a simple black dress, the kind that was appropriate but forgettable. That had been my strategy for family events for the past 4 years. Show up, stay quiet, leave early. It worked reasonably well most of the time. Elena. My mother's voice carried across the table, sharp with forced cheerfulness. Mrs. Whitmore was just asking what you've been up to. Tell her about your little projects. Mrs. Whitmore, dripping in pearls and condescension, turned her attention to me with theatrical interest. Yes, dear. Your mother mentioned you've been quite busy. What is it you do again? I work in software development, I said simply. Oh, how modern. Mrs. Whitmore's smile didn't reach her eyes. One of those computer jobs. And are you with a major company? Google? Microsoft? I run my own company, actually. My father laughed, the sound cutting through the pleasant dinner conversation. She calls it a company. It's more of a hobby, really. Elena's always been creative with her descriptions of reality. Heat crept up my neck, but I kept my expression neutral. 28 years of practice had taught me how to absorb these moments without reacting. Now, Richard, Mrs. Whitmore said, though her tone suggested she was enjoying this, I'm sure Elena is doing her best. Her best. My mother dabbed at her lips with her napkin, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when she was preparing to say something cutting. That's part of the problem, isn't it? Elena's best has always been somewhat limited. Mr. Whitmore, sensing entertainment, leaned forward. What kind of software does your company work on, Elena? Artificial intelligence, I said quietly. Machine learning applications for healthcare diagnostics. My brother Jason snorted from across the table. She means she writes code in her apartment. Calls herself a CEO. He made air quotes around the word. Our little sister, the entrepreneur. His wife Amanda giggled. That's actually kind of cute. Like a lemonade stand but with computers. It's not quite like that, I started. Elena has always had an active imagination, my mother interrupted smoothly, addressing the table at large now. At least 20 people were listening, all of them part of my parents' inner circle of wealth and influence. Even as a child, she'd make up these elaborate stories about what she was going to accomplish. We thought she'd grow out of it. But she didn't, my father finished. 28 years old and she's still living in a fantasy world. Pretending she's building some empire from her studio apartment. It's a 2-bedroom, I said, immediately regretting the defensive tone. Oh well then. Jason laughed. 2 bedrooms. That changes everything. Forget I said anything about the lemonade stand. The table erupted in polite laughter. I focused on my dinner plate, counting slowly to 10 the way my therapist had taught me. Mrs. Whitmore turned to my mother with exaggerated sympathy. It must be so difficult, Catherine. Especially when Jason has done so well for himself. Director of marketing at his age. You must be so proud. We are, my mother said warmly. Jason has exceeded every expectation. Made all the right choices, attended the right schools, married wonderfully. She beamed at Amanda. They've just bought a house in Riverside Estates. 5 bedrooms, can you imagine? And Elena? Mr. Whitmore asked, his tone making it clear he knew the answer would be unflattering. Where does she live? The Arts District, my father said, making it sound like a slum. One of those converted warehouse buildings. Very bohemian. I like the neighborhood, I said quietly. It's central to the tech community. The tech community, Jason repeated mockingly. God, Elena, do you hear yourself? You sound like a character from Silicon Valley. Except you're not in Silicon Valley. You're in a warehouse apartment pretending to be Steve Jobs. Jason, don't be cruel, my mother said, but there was no real reproach in her voice. Your sister is doing her best. It's not her fault she wasn't born with your drive and talent. I just think it's sad, Amanda chimed in. Elena, you were always so smart in school. Everyone thought you'd do something meaningful. But here you are, almost 30, still playing around with computers like a teenager. Don't you want a real career? A real life? This is my real life, I said, keeping my voice even. My father set down his wine glass with enough force to make it ring against the table. That's exactly the problem, Elena. This is your real life. Living alone, working on projects no one understands, earning God knows how little money with no prospects, no future and no ambition beyond your next coding session or whatever it is you do. Richard, Mrs. Whitmore said, leaning in conspirationally, surely Elena must make some money from this computer work? Even if it's not much. We honestly don't know, my mother said. She refuses to discuss finances with us. Won't accept our help, won't take our advice. She's always been stubborn that way. Independent, I corrected softly. Stubborn, my father overrode me. Foolishly, pointlessly stubborn. We've offered her positions at the firm, entry-level naturally since she has no real business experience, but she insists on pursuing this technology nonsense. Mr. Whitmore shook his head sadly. Such a waste. You and Catherine built one of the most successful real estate development firms in the state. The connections, the opportunities you could provide. And she chooses computers. In a warehouse apartment, Jason added helpfully. Don't forget the warehouse apartment. Very important detail. More laughter rippled around the table. I noticed several people from nearby tables glancing over, drawn by the spectacle of my family's public dissection of my failures. My mother addressed the growing audience with practiced grace. We've made peace with Elena's choices. Not every child can be successful. Some people simply aren't built for achievement. We love her anyway, of course. Of course, Mrs. Whitmore agreed. Though it must be hard watching her waste her 20s like this. It's devastating, my mother said, her voice catching just enough to sound genuine. To watch your child fail at life, to know they could be so much more if they'd just listen. It breaks a parent's heart. I'm not failing, I said louder than I intended. Several conversations stopped. I'm building something. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not real. My father's face darkened. Don't raise your voice at this table, Elena. We're celebrating our anniversary with friends and family. If you can't be pleasant, you can leave. Maybe I should. I started to stand. No. My mother grabbed my wrist, her fingers tight. You'll stay and you'll be gracious. This is our day and you will not ruin it with one of your dramatic exits. Sit down. I sat. 28 years old and I still couldn't quite defy my mother's direct commands. The problem, my father said, addressing the table again now that order was restored, is that Elena has never understood her limitations. We've tried to help her see reality, but she's convinced herself that she's some sort of genius entrepreneur. It would be funny if it weren't so sad. She couldn't succeed if she tried, he continued, warming to his theme. Several more people from nearby tables were openly listening now. She's just not built for it. Some people have what it takes. The drive, the intelligence, the social skills necessary for real success. Others. He gestured at me with his wine glass. Others play with computers and call it a career. My mother nodded along, her expression one of resigned disappointment. Such wasted potential. She could have been something. Could have had a real life. Instead, she's thrown it all away on this technology fantasy. Has she even made any money from this? Amanda asked. Like actual money? If she has, she's kept it very quiet, Jason said. Which tells you everything you need to know. If Elena had actually succeeded at anything, trust me, we'd hear about it. She'd make sure everyone knew. That's not fair, I said quietly. I don't broadcast my work because I prefer privacy. Privacy, my father scoffed. That's what failures call it when they have nothing to show for themselves. Privacy. Elena, successful people don't hide their success. They're proud of it. The fact that you've told us nothing about your supposed company in 4 years speaks volumes. Mrs. Whitmore patted my hand with false sympathy. Dear, there's no shame in not being as successful as your brother. Not everyone can be exceptional. Some people are just ordinary. And that's perfectly fine. Exactly, my mother agreed. We've been telling Elena this for years. Stop trying to be something you're not. Accept your limitations. Maybe find a nice entry-level position somewhere, meet a nice man, settle into a normal life. There's no shame in being average. I'm not average, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. No, my father agreed. You're below average. An average person would have recognized their shortcomings and adjusted accordingly. You're still chasing impossible dreams at 28. That's not average, Elena. That's delusional. The words hit like physical blows, but I'd learned long ago not to show the damage. I sat there, calm and composed, while my parents systematically destroyed me in front of 50 witnesses. Jason was scrolling through his phone now, smirking. "Hey, Elena, remember that business plan you showed us 3 years ago? The one Dad called science fiction written by someone who doesn't understand business? Whatever happened to that?" "I implemented it," I said simply. "You implemented it," he repeated, making it sound absurd. "Hey, and how's that going? Made your first million yet?" His tone made it clear he expected the answer to be no. Before I could respond, Mr. Whitmore's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then looked at it more carefully. His expression shifted from polite interest to confusion to absolute shock. "That's odd," he muttered. "What is?" Mrs. Whitmore leaned over to look at his screen. Her eyes went wide. "Oh my God." Several other phones around the room started buzzing in rapid succession. The soft notification sounds created a wave of electronic chirping that spread through the dining room like falling dominoes. My mother's phone lit up on the table. She picked it up, read something, and her face went pale. "Richard, look at this." My father took her phone, his expression skeptical. As he read, his face transformed, confusion, disbelief, then something that might have been anger or might have been shock. It was hard to tell. "What is it?" Jason demanded. "What's everyone looking at?" More phones were coming out now. All around the dining room, people were checking notifications, reading, their faces showing progressive stages of shock. Amanda gasped audibly, her hand flying to her mouth. She'd been scrolling through her phone and had apparently found whatever everyone else was seeing. "Hey, Jason, look at this." She turned her phone to show him. I couldn't see the screen from where I sat, but I watched my brother's face go from smug superiority to utter disbelief in about 3 seconds. "That can't be right," he said weakly. "What?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I knew what was happening. "What can't be right?" Mrs. Whitmore was staring at me now, her mouth slightly open. You're Elena Chin?" "Yes," I said simply. "I've always been Elena Chin." "No, I mean..." She looked back at her phone, then at me, then at her phone again. "You're Elena Chin. The Elena Chin." My mother's hands were shaking as she scrolled through her phone. "This says, Richard, this says she's number one. Number one on the Forbes 30 under 30 list." The dining room had fallen silent. 50 people were now openly staring, phones in hand, reading the same articles, looking at the same pictures. My father was still reading from my mother's phone, his face ashen. Forbes number 1 pick for technology innovators. Elena Chin, founder and CEO of Mediscan AI. Revolutionary diagnostic software that's transforming healthcare globally. 28 years old. Company valuation. He stopped, seeming unable to continue. $3.2 billion, Mr. Whitmore finished, reading from his own phone. Personal net worth estimated at $890 million. The silence was absolute. Jason was scrolling frantically now, his face cycling through shock, confusion, and dawning horror. There are hundreds of articles. TechCrunch, Wired, MIT Technology Review. Everyone's covering this. It went live 10 minutes ago. "But that's impossible," Amanda said, her voice shrill. "She lives in a warehouse apartment. She doesn't even dress nice. This has to be a mistake. A different Elena Chin." Mrs. Whitmore turned her phone around, showing a professional photo from the Forbes article. It was definitely me, though I looked far more polished than I did at family dinners. "Does this look like a different Elena Chin?" My mother was reading now, her voice hollow. Mediscan AI uses advanced machine learning algorithms to detect early-stage diseases from standard diagnostic images with 99.7% accuracy. The software has been adopted by over 2,000 hospitals worldwide. It's projected to save over 100,000 lives annually by catching cancers and other diseases years earlier than traditional diagnostic methods. Elena founded the company 4 years ago. My father read from another article. Working alone from her apartment, she developed the initial algorithms. She's been notoriously private, refusing interviews and publicity while building her company. The Forbes 30 under 30 list represents her first major public exposure. More people were reading now, sharing details back and forth. Her software is being called the most significant diagnostic breakthrough in 50 years, someone said from a nearby table. Johns Hopkins just published a study on it, someone else added. Reduced false positives by 87%. The WHO is in talks to implement it in developing countries, another voice chimed in. Jason had found a video interview I'd done 3 months ago with MIT Technology Review. The only interview I'd agreed to, and only because they'd promised to keep it low profile until this month. He played it and my voice filled the dining room through his phone's speaker. The goal was never to make money, Video Me was saying. The goal was to save lives. Too many diseases are caught too late. If we can use AI to detect them earlier, catch them before they become terminal, we can fundamentally change healthcare outcomes globally. The business side was necessary to scale the technology, but the mission has always been patient outcomes. The interviewer's voice. Your software is now in hospitals across 6 continents. How does it feel to know you've created something that will save tens of thousands of lives? Humbling, Video Me replied. And like validation that 4 years of 18-hour days were worth it. Jason stopped the video, his hand shaking slightly. Mrs. Whitmore was still reading, her voice stunned. It says here that you've donated $200 million to medical research. That you've established scholarships for 500 students from low-income backgrounds to study computer science and medicine. That you personally funded the installation of your software in 20 hospitals in underserved communities. The software in those hospitals is provided free of charge in perpetuity, Mr. Whitmore added, reading from another article. Elena Chin has stated that no hospital will ever be denied access to Mediscan AI due to inability to pay. My mother was crying now, tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. You did all this? In 4 years? While we... She couldn't finish the sentence. My father was just staring at his phone, scrolling through article after article. His face had gone from red to white to gray. You're worth $890 million. That's just an estimate, I said quietly, based on company valuation and my ownership stake. The actual number fluctuates. Fluctuates, he repeated numbly. Jason found another article. Business Insider is calling you the most important healthcare innovator of the decade. They're comparing you to the inventors of the MRI and CT scan. That's generous, I said. I just wrote better software. Better software. Amanda's voice was nearly hysterical. You created technology that's saving lives all over the world and you call it better software? A man from a nearby table approached, his expression apologetic. Miss Chin, I'm Dr. Marcus Williams. I'm a radiologist at Presbyterian Hospital. I use your software every day. I need you to know it's changed everything. I caught a pancreatic tumor last week that I would have missed completely without Mediscan. The patient starts treatment next week. She'll survive because of your work. I'm glad, I said, and I meant it. That's why I built it. He shook his head in wonder. I had no idea you were so young, or that you'd been working in such obscurity. The whole medical community is talking about this Forbes article. Everyone wants to meet you, thank you, understand how you did it. More people were approaching now, doctors and medical professionals who'd been dining at other tables, all of them wanting to express their gratitude, their awe, their disbelief that I was here at a country club anniversary dinner while revolutionizing their field. My mother's phone rang. She answered it numbly. Hello? This is Catherine Chin. Yes, Elena is my daughter. You want to interview us about raising such a remarkable young woman? She laughed, a broken sound. I don't think that would be appropriate. She hung up and the phone immediately rang again. She didn't answer. My father's phone started ringing too. Then Jason's. Within minutes, all of their phones were lighting up with calls from media outlets, old friends, business associates, everyone suddenly desperate to talk about Elena Chin, the daughter they'd spent the evening calling a failure. Mrs. Whitmore was still reading, seeming unable to stop. There's an article here about your workspace. They're calling it genius minimalism. You converted a warehouse apartment into a state-of-the-art development laboratory. There are photos. It's stunning. Industrial chic meets cutting-edge technology. The Arts District location provides easy access to the medical facilities I partner with, I said, echoing what I'd told Architectural Digest when they'd profiled my space. And the warehouse provides enough room for my servers and testing equipment. Your servers, my father said faintly. You have servers in your apartment. I did initially, I confirmed. Now I have a dedicated facility, but I still keep some equipment at home for after-hours work. Jason had found another article. You're being called the most influential person in healthcare technology. There's speculation that you'll win a Nobel Prize. That's premature, I said. The software needs more long-term outcome data before you win a Nobel Prize, Jason finished, his voice hollow. That's what you're worried about. Whether you have enough data before you win a Nobel Prize. The absurdity of the situation was beginning to set in. An hour ago, these people had been mocking me, calling me delusional, telling me I couldn't succeed if I tried. Now they were reading about how I'd built a billion-dollar company that was saving lives around the world. Amanda was crying now too. We made fun of you. I called it a lemonade stand. Oh God, Elena, I'm so sorry. We had no idea, Mrs. Whitmore said, though her expression suggested she was already recalculating her social position relative to mine. If we'd known what you were working on, would it have mattered? I asked quietly. If I'd told you 4 years ago that I was developing AI diagnostic software, would you have believed me? Or would you have called it another one of my fantasy projects? No one answered. My mother reached for my hand. Elena, sweetheart, I don't know what to say. We've been so wrong about you. So incredibly, terribly wrong. I pulled my hand back gently. You weren't wrong about what you could see. You were wrong about what you assumed. You saw me working from home, living simply, staying private about my work. You assumed that meant I was failing. You never considered that maybe I was just focused. My father set down his phone, his hands shaking. 4 years. You've been building this for 4 years. Every family dinner, every holiday, every event where we criticized you, told you to get a real job, said you were wasting your life. You were revolutionizing healthcare. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at him, really looked at him. At his expensive suit, his perfectly styled hair, his face that had spent the evening radiating smug superiority. When would have been the right time, Dad? At Thanksgiving 3 years ago when you told Uncle Mark I was unemployable? At your birthday last year when you said I'd never amount to anything? Today when you told 50 people that I couldn't succeed if I tried? He flinched. Jason was scrolling through his phone with increasing agitation. There's a video trending on Twitter. Someone recorded Dad's speech earlier. The part where he said you couldn't succeed if she tried. It's been shared 40,000 times in the past 20 minutes. Oh God, my mother whispered. People are not being kind in the comments, Jason continued. They're calling it the worst parental take of all time. They're memes. Someone created a gif of Dad saying she couldn't succeed, with your Forbes cover popping up at the end. My father's face had gone bright red now, anger mixing with humiliation. You could have stopped this. You could have told us, warned us. Warned you not to publicly humiliate your daughter? I asked calmly. That shouldn't require a warning, Dad. Mrs. Whitmore was trying to salvage the situation. Well, this is all wonderful news. Lena, we're so proud of you. We've always known you were special. Please don't, I said firmly. We both know that's not true. You've spent the evening calling me ordinary, telling me to accept my limitations, suggesting I find a nice entry-level job somewhere. You don't get to rewrite history now that you know my net worth. She opened her mouth, then closed it, unable to argue. More phones were ringing. The video of my father's comments was spreading rapidly, going viral in real time. Every major news outlet was now running stories about the Forbes 30 under 30 list, with me as the lead story. A waiter approached hesitantly. Miss Chin, there are several reporters outside asking for you. Should I tell them you're not available? Yes, please. Thank you. He nodded and retreated, but not before I saw the admiration in his eyes. Even the staff had seen the articles. My mother was sobbing openly now, mascara running down her face. How can you be so calm? We've said such horrible things to you. Such cruel, ignorant things. Because you've been saying them for 4 years, I replied simply. I'm used to it. I stopped letting it hurt me a long time ago. That's worse, she said. That's so much worse. You stopped caring what we thought because we treated you so badly. I didn't disagree. Dr. Williams approached again, phone in hand. Miss Chin, I hope I'm not intruding, but I just spoke with the head of radiology at Massachusetts General. They're using your software and they wanted me to pass along their gratitude. They're catching cancers 2 to 3 years earlier than they were before Mediscan. The patient outcomes have been extraordinary. I'm so glad to hear that, I said genuinely. That's exactly what I hoped would happen. I also wanted to apologize, he said, glancing at my family. I couldn't help but overhear some of the conversation earlier, before the Forbes article dropped. I think everyone here owes you an apology. They owe me nothing, I said. They spoke what they believed to be true. They didn't know what I was actually accomplishing because I chose not to tell them. That was my decision. Why? Jason asked suddenly. Why didn't you tell us? Really? I looked at my brother, at his expensive suit and his smug expression that was finally cracking. Because I needed to know who you all really were. Who you were when you thought I had nothing to offer you. When you thought I was a failure with no prospects and no future. And now I know. What do you know? My mother asked, her voice barely a whisper. That your love is conditional, I said simply. That your respect has to be earned through success that you can understand and quantify. That I'm only valuable to you when I'm worth $890 million and featured on Forbes covers. That's not fair, my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? I gestured around the room. An hour ago you were telling everyone I was delusional. A failure. Someone who couldn't succeed if I tried. Now you're crying and apologizing and trying to claim you always believed in me. The only thing that changed is your knowledge of my net worth. Amanda found another article. CNN is running a segment called The Warehouse Billionaire. They're talking about how you revolutionized healthcare while living in obscurity. People are calling it the greatest underdog story in modern business. I was never an underdog, I said. I knew what I was building. I knew its value. Just because other people didn't see it doesn't mean I didn't. The country club manager approached, looking flustered. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I apologize, but we have a situation. There are approximately 30 reporters outside now. They're asking for Ms. Chen. We're trying to keep them from entering, but... I'll leave, I said, standing. I don't want to cause more disruption to your celebration. No. My mother grabbed my arm. Please, Elena. Stay. We can talk about this, work through this. Work through what? I asked gently. Mom, you spent the evening telling your friends that I was a failure, that I'd wasted my potential, that I couldn't succeed if I tried. Those words came from somewhere real. The Forbes article doesn't erase them. But we didn't know, she insisted. If we'd known what you were building, you would have treated me differently, I finished. That's exactly my point. Your treatment of me was based entirely on what you thought I could offer you. And now that you know I'm successful, you want to change the dynamic. But I don't. My father stood, his face a mix of shame and anger. What are you saying, Elena? That you're cutting us off? Your own family? I'm saying that I'm going to leave now. I'm going to go home to my warehouse apartment with my servers and my development equipment. I'm going to continue working on the next generation of Mediscan, which will detect neurological diseases even earlier. And I'm going to think very carefully about what role, if any, this family plays in my life going forward. You can't mean that, Jason said. We're your family. You're people who share my DNA, I corrected. Family is supposed to support you, believe in you, give you the benefit of the doubt. You've done none of those things for 4 years. You've mocked me, dismissed me, and publicly humiliated me repeatedly. The Forbes article doesn't change what you've done. It just makes you regret it. Mrs. Whitmore tried once more. Elena, surely you can forgive a few thoughtless comments. Your parents love you. Do they? I looked at my mother, at my father, at their faces showing shock and shame and desperate calculation. Because from where I stand it looks like they love my net worth. They love the idea of telling their friends their daughter is on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. They love the status I can bring them now. But me, the person I actually am? I don't think they've ever loved that. My mother's sobbing intensified, but I felt oddly calm. 4 years of hurt and dismissal had built up a protective shield that even their tears couldn't penetrate. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my security team. They'd been on standby since the Forbes article dropped, knowing this might happen. My car will be here in 2 minutes, I said. Security will help me through the reporters. I'd appreciate it if you'd all give me some space for the next few weeks while I figure out what I want to do about this situation. Elena, please, my father started. I need to go, I said firmly. Congratulations on 40 years of marriage. I hope you have many more. I walked toward the exit and the entire dining room watched me go. 50 people who'd spent the evening watching my parents tear me apart, now watching me walk away from them with quiet dignity. As I reached the door, Dr. Williams caught up to me. Miss Chen, one more thing. My daughter is studying computer science at State University. She wants to work in medical technology. Would it be possible? Could she perhaps reach out to you? For mentorship or advice? I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd managed all evening. Have her email me through the company website. I make time for students who are serious about using technology to help people. Thank you, he said, his voice full of emotion. Thank you for everything you're doing. You're changing the world. Outside, my security team was waiting. They formed a protective barrier as reporters shouted questions. Miss Chen, how does it feel to be #1 on the Forbes list? Elena, can you comment on the video of your father's statements? Is it true you developed Mediscan entirely alone? I didn't answer any of them, just walked calmly to my car. A Tesla Model X, practical and efficient. Not a billionaire's typical choice, but I'd never cared about typical. As we pulled away, I looked back at the country club. Through the windows, I could see my family still sitting at that table, surrounded by people whose opinions they valued more than their daughter's well-being. My phone was exploding with notifications. Interview requests from every major media outlet. Speaking invitations from conferences and universities. Messages from colleagues and competitors, investors and advisors, all of them wanting to congratulate me or attach themselves to my sudden public success. One text stood out from Dr. Rachel Martinez at Johns Hopkins, one of the researchers who'd helped validate my software. Saw the Forbes article. Congratulations on finally getting the recognition you deserve. Also saw the video of your father. I'm so sorry. You deserve better. If you need anything, call me. I typed back, thank you. Okay. Just ready for this day to be over. Her response came immediately. Want to grab coffee tomorrow and talk about the next phase of the neural detection algorithms? Work is always a good distraction. I smiled. Yes. That sounds perfect. Because that was the thing, the work was real. The lives being saved were real. The hospitals using my software, the patients being diagnosed earlier, the families who'd get more years with their loved ones because a tumor was caught in time, that was all real. My family's sudden recognition of my worth? That wasn't real. That was just reaction to a Forbes article, to a net worth estimate, to public validation they couldn't ignore. I'd built something meaningful while they were calling me a failure. I'd changed an entire field while they were suggesting I get an entry-level job. I'd saved lives while they were telling everyone I couldn't succeed if I tried. And now they wanted to claim pride in my accomplishments, to bask in reflected glory, to tell people they always knew I'd be special. But I knew the truth. And so did 50 witnesses who'd heard every word they'd said before they knew who I really was. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mother. Please come back. We need to talk. We love you. I stared at the message for a long moment, then turned off my phone. Tomorrow I'd deal with the media storm. Tomorrow I'd figure out how to maintain the privacy I'd worked so hard to protect. Tomorrow I'd decide what boundaries to set with my family and whether those boundaries would include any contact at all. But tonight I was just going to go home to my converted warehouse, pour myself a glass of wine, and review the latest test results from the neural detection project. Because that work, that difficult, complex, world-changing work, that was what mattered. Not Forbes lists or family approval or net worth estimates. The work was what mattered. It always had been. And unlike my family's conditional love, the work had never let me down.